Are we rolling?
In order to facilitate easier discussion amongst the board members, the board has elected to sit in front of the diocese down on the ground. Unfortunately, our cameras cannot reach them. We do have microphones and we are going to stream in an attempt to get as much of the information as possible recorded. That is our intention. We apologize if it's not feasible. There are no members of the public here currently, and I will do roll call. Duncan Black?
Here.
He is present. Marissa Colucci? She is present. Tracy Conheiser-Rui? She is present. Jonathan O'Rourke?
Present.
He is present. Pete Tulty?
Yes.
We also have Gary Palumbo, Ann Dafchek, and Dan Howard.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm John O'Rourke. I'm the chairman of the Design Advisory Board, and we're having a meeting to review the several things that are board-related issues. There is no outside hearing for any applicants. So without, no. I'm looking for the minutes. Oh, I will believe I should. Okay. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Meeting on Thursday, December 11th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Okay, we can have a roll call.
Duncan Black?
Here.
Marissa Colucci?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Next one will just be Jonathan O'Rourke.
I was not here, but I've reviewed them. Yes.
And
Yes. Okay, moving ahead. Has this traditionally been read at the beginning of the meeting like we do at the planning board? That's the.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody got a copy of it, but it's.
no, only because typically you're reading it up on the
I'm reading. All right,
dais
okay.
for the public, but they're
All
not.
right, well, I just wanted to know where to go in case you. So, we have the announcements that I will make in case fire evacuation. Move the doors over here, don't try to go through the doors behind us. Ask you not to move your furniture or equipment. Speaking at the podium, please state your name and address before your comments and sign in the room. Individuals are allotted 3 minutes to speak. Neighborhoods are allotted up to 15 minutes. Comments must relate to the purpose of the hearing and observe proper decorum. I have a question on this. Okay, we've done the roll call. And I believe we can move ahead then with the minutes. Okay, the second item is the Design Advisory Board Procedures and Design Guidelines.
Oh, so those.
What you have in front of you now is a memo stacked together for the board and Dan. John said, three things tonight. Preliminary design review, which is a concept that started a couple of years ago and the question now initiated by the board is, should it be mandatory instead of optional? The second thing tonight are the design guidelines that have been in place since 2019. And 5 years of practice and 18 applications before you. We Rachel put together a table that lists all the applications, the recommendations you made, and some key notes about them. Just to help jog your memory. Then the third thing are draft rules of order, which the four original members of the board will see soon. We talked about in 2021. They were not adopted by this board. We anticipate the attorney's office as all boards will to so there's your old ones, never adopted your old draft. Goes through that. As with any of the three documents we talked about, you can mark stuff up, give it to Rachel.
Can you clarify rules of order? Are we talking the specific ones that were considered by this board, or is it generic applying to the board?
Specific to the DAD, it was written for the DAD.
Right.
I believe you went through one round of revisions, but then they wasn't adopted. And it's, since then, there wasn't a push to adopt. So, circling back to the beginning, the preliminary design review. 2023, we had 2 or 3 meetings similar to this tonight, where we talked about the general process, how things have gone for the first few years, what we do to improve it. One of the takeaways from that meeting was to establish the opportunity for applicants to ask for a preliminary informal review or to make their formal submittal for site. Just as a reminder, the way you guys get your applications. Application for site plan comes into the planning board. If it's in one of the mixed-use districts, we also get the design advisory board application. It starts the process. Planning board, 6 to 8 week lead time before you make it to an agenda. So squeeze the data in before that. If someone wants to come, and what we found out was that maybe in that, it seems like a long period of time, by the time the applicant makes their application to the planning board and DAB at the same time, they feel that their design is well established. Too hard for you guys to address significant changes at that time, especially if it's going to slow down. That's where the preliminary informal review came about, establishing a submittal deadline 2 weeks before the meeting. Get them, try to review them, get in front of you, and we've had, I have to look back at this table, had 3 or 4 people that have volunteered to come in, 6 or 8 applications. Was it beneficial? Do we think we actually got some changes to the exterior design before we got into the planning cycle? Too late. Question now is, seems to be working. Do you want to recommend to the town board to make it mandatory? My comment in my memo here is that if you want to make that recommendation, we think you should set some thresholds.
What would trigger that threshold?
Okay. Fine. So I prepared 5 talking points. What thresholds, my experience in looking at site plans and working with Deb for suggestions. First bullet relates to height. How tall are the additions or the new structures, or how different are they from surrounding structures? Applications for non-residential or mixed-use development, maybe it's an addition of greater than some area through 10,000 square feet. If it's less than 4,000 square feet, it's likely to be a minor site. But the planning director can trigger damage, excuse me. We had an office building last year, less than 4,000 square feet. We also had a coffee shop, Maple in the Plaza. That was less than 4,000 feet. We were able to say it's a significant number. Yeah, should that be forced to go to the district laws with limited application. Another trigger I suggested is an increase by more than 75%. It's a percentage of expansion relevant. Site plan applications for buildings greater than 4,000 square feet. Talking about this at the staff level, we thought it is a minor. Should be required. It can still fall. And then other major minors. And if it doesn't meet criteria. So those,
Okay.
Pete, are the thresholds I suggest. I think the first question is, do you want to do it?
Well, let me just jump in if I can. Excuse me, I'm as a grizzled veteran of all of 3 meetings with the board. I know you've been here. Done a great job. I mean, this is a lot of work that seems to have been done successfully under the current guidelines. So I guess what I would ask be for some feedback from the board. If they feel I've always admitted that my bias is against less bureaucracy than more bureaucracy. If we're adding more rules, well, in this case, it applies to that. It does. I tend to get a little. I think we can keep things moving. Now, again, I have not been involved in except for exposure to the last couple, so that I would ask if everybody wants to take a chance to kind of throw out what their thoughts are on this. Whether or not we should have a mandatory, this has to go there, even though we would remain an advisory board. So if you guys don't mind, go to my left. Putting you on the spot, my friend.
Well, I think, in my opinion, it's been beneficial to have these meetings, that it's improved the projects. My biggest concern is timing. And that's on both sides of the fence here. Every time you have to go in front of a different board, another board, and another board, it just drags the project out. It's expensive. Whoever. So it's how we can keep this expedited to do it, because I think it is important. That we look at having just a group of rules that says, here's what you're going to do. visual impact of what the change would be. So I think that gets back to what you've set up so far, the qualifications of this board. Buildings of some sort. Professional firm or get into having earlier chance to get at some of these if we need to. I don't know what set as rules that says here you really got to design advisory. Pet peeve I have hearing those terms is this is a design advisory board. Beauty of Amherst going directions for the future.
Feedback.
Well, I'll stick with the memo. I will also. I think the preliminary meetings have yielded better results for some of these buildings. I don't like making things mandatory because from like the AE side of things, that adds, like you said, a lot of time and dollars to projects. So I think I would caution us to make it mandatory. If it is, I think it needs to be like square footage, like it should be mandatory for like a development like Boulevard Mall, but like for something like that, I don't think it's mandatory. That's where my head's at. I do think it's been beneficial. I'm glad that we have it.
Right.
Exactly what she said. So,
Ditto.
no, I
I know,
definitely,
ditto.
same thoughts, that it is very helpful to see the larger projects and earlier on, they likely have a longer design duration to allow that to happen. But the smaller ones, like the coffee shop, it's not a long enough design period, right, to be able to even do 2 submissions, nor do those comments necessarily, they're not as large, right? It's a small development. So I think to have it as a mandatory item is not the right move. But it should be an option or a mandatory for a larger threshold. It's kind of vague, but how do we,
Oh,
kind of get into the middle somewhere if it's, written exactly how you have it noted here? Or is it really just up to the planning department when it applies? Anything with this strict threshold, I think, is what also concerns me, because it could trigger a preliminary review for something that you're going to say, that's really doesn't necessarily apply in that case.
I'm going to say this, I'm going to ask Dan the same thing. It's easier. Mandated, established threshold, easier. Implement it. Preliminary review. If there's a specific.
Pre-manufactured.
Um,
Yeah.
But, you know, it's harder for us to be say this would need to
Right.
Good.
So maybe the thresholds, but the discretion to forego it if you find it's not. I'm thinking like, okay, maybe you have an addition on the back of a building that the public won't necessarily ever see, right? But it triggers here. So to me, that, I don't know that we necessarily need to review that twice. So maybe just to give that discretion that the planning department is able to, forego that preliminary submission if they deem it unnecessary.
Would there be an option? Planning department having the ability to members of this board early when you're trying to make a decision and say, what do you think? Should it come in front of you?
I mean, I would trust Anne,
I would
honestly.
I would trust Anne to make that. I also worry though that you could then have somebody saying, well, you're being arbitrary. If it's just an opinion that someone thinks, yeah, I think it should or no, it shouldn't. If they ever feel like you've now caused them additional time and dollars, and they want to complain about it, I think having something that is in writing or like that does give you an out, there are exceptions. This may not be required when. I think it puts certain people in a dangerous position to maybe get some pushback where there's just gray zone and it's left up to interpretation.
I do have like a sort of step question. Sorry.
Stuff. Maybe you can hear each other. I can barely hear you.
The airflow.
But
If you want to help switch over here, it's easier to hear.
no, fine. I just speak up a little bit.
Been talking all day.
Bring it home.
Give me your Friday night voice.
Peter, you're,
I know. The question I have is, we have reviewed Starbucks and Seven Brew and like some of these developments, franchises, whatever, that come with like a predisposed design. I would argue like, I don't need to see the Starbucks. The Seven Brew, like that's their cookie cutter design that they're doing for years, whatever. Like that's something I want us to talk about too. Like I don't know that it's necessary to review those type programs, even if they do fall within like the mixed use districts, because it's like, what are we going to tell Starbucks to change?
I don't know.
You know?
Way to say prototypes don't need their review, regular their reviews. Some people would say that's the reason why we should force them to come in and see if we can break that mold a little bit. But it certainly makes sense that you're going to get pushback all through wasting everybody's time.
Definitely the preliminary, but I do think it's so valuable for us to review those because there's site plan comments that we can make that are not corporate, right? The corporate standards are the building design itself, but like Seven Brews, we had a lot of site comments on, and even Starbucks. So that end, we can.
you're on the spot. I know you've been chomping at the bit.
No, your response. First, I want to say having that preliminary review was extremely helpful. There were some reviews, I'm thinking back to a Benderson review over on behind the Boulevard Mall. They got kind of adversarial. We were trying to get them to put a sidewalk in, and they were throwing paper at us. So having a design review before it's finished, I think makes it much more conversation. And so at the time, I wouldn't want to slow the process down. But as far as what this board is, this is kind of a gray area board. I mean, the things we're talking about, is it a good design? Do we like this? What's your preference? As far as the base, middle, and top, it kind of gives us a format to talk about it. There's exceptions to it. Think about the buildings that are being done along Main Street. There's one along, help me out, they've been in here half a dozen times. Main and Transit behind, they put the,
All bliss.
thank you. They came in here, their buildings don't necessarily have that necessary cap, but it gives us a way to talk about it. So we can talk about things that are not concrete, but we can talk about what's down here, what's here, what's here. So it's given us a format to talk about all these things and say, it doesn't necessarily meet the check boxes. Yeah, that's attractive. We're fine with that. And being that we all have some kind of design experience, or we have some measure of experience, our opinion does have some credit, and we kind of keep each other in check with a vote. So I think that it should be required. As far as what triggers it, you were actually getting into, should it be the cost, should it be the size, should it be the scale, should it be whether it's new build or existing construction. But a lot of things we're talking about here are not things that are related to when someone goes to a design professional, they're looking for a solution to a problem. And that problem addresses the owners and the clients. Things we're talking about are for everybody else, people walking by it. People have to step into the street because there's no sidewalk there. We're looking at this thing and say, did they need to put the chain link on the third floor? Why is it a 3-story building, but there's nothing inside of it? So I think that those things are not necessarily the design itself. It's not necessarily the things being discussed between the owners, the designers, or architects, professionals. But those are things that we're standing guard saying, that is ugly. Don't put that there. Don't ignore the sidewalk. Put at least a row of bushes there. And we're kind of there to catch that. So I think that it is important. I think that whether it's triggered or not, I think it might be a good idea to have it based on, yes, it's required, less. They meet some kind of criteria. And as far as a prefab, I mean, one of the things I remember before I was in architecture, hearing about how this is what a McDonald's looks like. But if you went into a historic district and you saw a McDonald's there, no, it didn't look anything like that. It was completely changed because this is not what they wanted here. If you want to put it here, this is what you got to do. We don't need to be authoritarian about it, but we should at least have a forum for that discussion.
So
Very good.
Generally, you're saying that
Yes,
when shouldn't we do
yes.
preliminary?
If they got to buy a box of cookies for you, that's fine.
So I do like that. So to Ann's point, that kind of covers, like, they should expect you would always need a design review, right? So they can budget it and they know from a, fee standpoint or whatnot and timing. But we can, forego that if it's a small addition, if it's, X, Y, Z, or at the discretion of,
Or maybe.
I mean, it doesn't give you black and white rules per se,
I'm going to ask you the
but
same question, just backwards. We still need to come up with them. I need the reasons.
Existing conditions, if you want, if it's under a certain square footage or a certain
Yeah.
cost. Or maybe we say we're not evaluating design, we're looking at the site, or we're only looking at the changes to the site, or there might be a way to minimize that.
yeah, I think it's definitely the size of the addition or building could be a trigger point, or a trigger to not need it.
Piece makes it sound like maybe set surroundings.
All right, well, I think everybody seems to be, there's no radical opinions here tonight, I guess. But the first thing I wrote down was bully pulpit, which is a phrase that says, I'm going to use my best influence to try to move you in that way, knowing that somebody on this board will be in front of the planning board pre-meeting in the next couple of weeks to say, the design board really felt pretty strongly about A, B, or C, and I think we should pick up on that and experience with the current board is that will likely happen. And your feedback will be my responsibility to communicate it, and then their responsibility to incorporate it into their vote at the end of the night. Think back to the development attorney from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and might have been Tom Rinaldo, who used to say, "I can sleep at night when both sides hate me, my clients and the neighbors." And so, and I got that. And so that's kind of the interest. That's what keeps me coming back to the process, planning board, and the design board, that there is a dynamic sharp and on top of it, pay attention. So I guess my feedback from what I've heard, trying to concur with the opinions, is there is some legitimacy in having some guidelines, some mandatory guidelines. Understand that, makes some sense. But can we revisit that and try something that maybe is a little bit more reasonable and or adds it? I know you're the concern about discretion. In some cases, I don't know if that can be avoided 100%. Dealing with time, money, so forth. So I don't know if anybody's got any feedback to that, but I would say that it appears that the board is favorably disposed to mandatory preliminary requirements. However, maybe they could have taken into a higher account, a better account of the hurdles that are being faced by the other side. So if we simplify, and I don't know what the right answer is in terms of 10,200 square feet, 10,800.
Is there a criterion other than size? Cost from your perspective, cost possibly?
Cost is
Cost possibly, is it existing, or is it a renovation to an existing, or is it a blank slate? Type of thing? If there's something already there, then it's, you say, well, I gotta be 20 feet up street curb.
So, what John said, should hear it, stuff. We're not suggesting that we propose any changes for the requirement to have review normal, full formal review that comes with any site plan in the mixed use. Thinking about the preliminary review, maybe mandating it certain projects not mandating projects below certain thresholds. One of the thresholds, and I put some things down, as talking points. One of the thresholds up here is cost. Another one, the context, and the answers. Context, surrounding use and or form. No, definitely form is important. The DAB base your thresholds on what you're going to force extra review. Neighboring use.
Immediately adjacent touching property, or is it like a
So we're looking for something backwards from, everything's required, all the preliminary is required for everybody unless certain.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a second about what jobs have we done that we probably didn't need the preliminary.
Once we started this conversation, we started talking about, we have to update our table.
So I'm just looking through,
What do you remember?
originally wrote this is the Benderson one that I was trying to get to put a sidewalk in, and it flipped. So we backed up to a crosswalk. I don't know if we ever actually put
Oh,
it in.
that's the key bank on,
Usually, yeah. Yeah, that's the sidewalk like ended like just short of the property. I'm like, can you extend the sidewalk across your property? They flipped.
There's stoplights there.
Was it?
There's stoplights there.
Is there a stoplight?
Yes.
Two of them.
Okay, well, good. But still, there's no sidewalks.
the second one down Maple Road is that Starbucks. Last year.
The seven, no,
That's Seven Brews. I'm
Starbucks.
sorry.
the one on Maple?
And then
So-
Tracy
Yeah, the one in
talks
the-
about, there's gonna be kids from school and teachers walking there. How can we make sure they're not crossing?
That,
Well, no,
that,
this
that's a start.
Starbucks, this is Starbucks.
No, the one on the Maple Road?
Yeah.
Behind Anchor Bar.
That
No.
Bill made-
Oh, wait, Bill.
That's not Maple,
a
that's
different
Sheridan.
Oh, I'm thinking
okay.
the
That's
one-
Sheridan Mill.
This is the
Anchor Bar.
Starbucks. In the plaza.
Oh, in the middle of the whole.
Behind Anchor Bar. Anchor Bar.
Oh, Anchor Bar, behind Anchor Bar. Thank you.
Okay,
It was the site was triangular shaped,
Yes.
right?
I do remember that.
And the guy, we said, how are people gonna find it?
And
And
it
the
was-
guy
it's an
said,
out.
my wife can find any Starbucks anywhere, don't
That
worry.
was, I think we all agree, should not have needed a preliminary. We wouldn't want to mandate for a preliminary.
Yeah, I think the comments then had more to do with the connectivity between the interior
Which
spaces.
is pick up
We could have made that suggestion and they
in the
could have
regular
left it.
review.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, what is that made that one that we didn't have to review? In your opinion, we say, well, that one probably didn't need the preliminary review.
Size, the setting in the middle of the plaza wasn't upfront. Little to no opportunity for connectivity with other mixed-use projects. It was already developed plaza. So a lot of the things, a lot of the guidelines just weren't applicable.
They didn't
That's
have,
why I think-
the things that we asked them to do, they didn't have to necessarily come back and show us the display.
Well, there was not little site work, right? So one of the thoughts I had, like what you have here all notes building area, but is there a threshold of you're affecting less than or more than 25% of the site, or have a site threshold? Because we do look at a lot of the site connectivity. So if you're not touching the site, then there's little to no conversation there.
I think of one of Main Street, we were saying, you're putting a brick or a concrete wall facing the neighborhood. Make that.
Right.
It's the connectivity between two things.
Right, right.
So how do we, what would be the,
Connectivity. So often applies to big sites with multiple new buildings, multiple large site, 10, 20 acres, build streets, build commercial. How are we going to hit? Where are we going to have? It's not what we did. Most of the time, we did, it's not part of a bigger mixed site. It's one off parcel, or in the case of that coffee shop. It's an out parcel. Roads. That would definitely should have preliminary review, because as Pete just said, starting from a clean slate. Starting from a clean slate, this is your chance to talk about intra-connectivity between sites, between individual building parcels. That's the easy easy one to say, really should have a
Everything.
preliminary review.
I think it was like, any slate type slot.
And that would be a site.
Might be a little more. I mean, with something like that, why don't we say that if it's a blank slate, then it's gotta come in for preliminary review, because there's going to be suggestions all over. And if it's renovations to an existing,
And if it's next to a
Site
vacant
disturb.
other,
Oh, I was gonna say, okay, I mean, you could automatically address the blank slate issue by saying if there are site disturbances, you're changing the surface of any, you're changing from asphalt to, grass, or you're changing from grass to asphalt, and you're affecting a certain percentage of the materials that are on the surface of the site, you're disturbing site components of a certain percentage of the overall parcel. Like, can you,
you're not eligible for a exemption.
preliminary review.
You need to do it unless it's under, if we're doing the opposite. You need to do a preliminary review unless it's under a
right, less than a certain
threshold,
percentage.
less than 10% or 25%
Do
or
we
whatever.
know like the size of our average review site? Like what,
We can't,
on this
we
list?
do.
Okay,
Is it on this list? No.
because
we
I
can't
just,
find that out.
let's say that it's, a 10,000 square foot, whatever that recommendation was that for
Yeah.
floor area? Like how many of these are actually at
Okay.
that 10,000 square foot threshold?
We can look at the size of the buildings or the additions, and we can look at the size of the parcel.
Because I would be curious, like if we're saying it has to be unless, I'm curious how many of the ones that we actually reviewed would have triggered a mandatory preliminary review.
In this list, which ones do you think should have had?
Should it? But
Should have. So we didn't have the preliminary review option, exercise it until late 2023. Before that, only one development came in. We went to talk to Dan before we really dig into our site plan.
That was plus.
Yeah, it was Bliss. Bliss was the one who I think technically came up with the idea.
They get the cookies, yeah, I like that. Was it? Oh. Yeah, that's why I don't remember it.
And now I recognize it.
Did we do a preliminary for? If it has 2 dates?
If it has
So
two
we-
finals, it was not a preliminary, they just happened to come through twice. So like Fenderson for Square Shop came through 3 times, 4 times, but each time it was actually, well, most recently they came through twice. But they were both supposed to be final
Okay.
reviews. Neither of them were intended to be preliminary.
I think Fruha should have had a preliminary. I still think that would. And I also, that was the one where we had the name show up there.
Oh,
Why not,
Like, I think it should be mandatory, especially if it actually backs up to a residential.
So like an immediately adjacent parcel is residential.
that's gotta be an absolute.
So would it be helpful, as you're suggesting, thought for mandatory review cover right now? I think these are fairly good
Can, tweaking can be the right word, just maybe,
Well, we just added one, immediate adjacency to residential, we talked about that. And then look at size. That's a good example. And it's also, that's a good example. both versions of that.
I think, because especially with the residential component, like, as a resident, if something like that was going up behind my house, like, I would want the opportunity to see it, digest, understand, like, kind of where it's coming from. Like, I would want to see that.
So a
More than
preliminary,
when it's,
a preliminary review would give the dad the opportunity to talk about, I think, the most important thing, transition relationship between the back of that parcel. Some of that stuff overlaps with the zone section 5A, some discretionary, and opportunity to say, starting off by saying, right? Would it have been, the whole idea of the preliminary is that it's gonna happen soon enough so that the design professionals can, you're affecting change. Design professionals have time, don't have the information to, not gonna lose too much time by building this change. Most likely the design guidelines don't get to the point where you're taking away units, reducing height, the things that hit your performance of the. That's an example.
Do we know, like, at what phase this preliminary review needs to take place? Like, do we say it needs to happen in schematic design or conceptual
We
design?
don't get to say that because we don't control when they cross our threshold and come in. We can't
Right.
say, you must see us at 25% design. Nothing in zoning, site plan. Actually, for site plan review, it's just the opposite. We want to see it as late as possible.
Right, I guess.
Mature thing.
Mature, right, right. But if
Yes.
we're starting to say, okay, we need to have 2 submissions, but they don't necessarily know they have to submit until they're almost done
That is
for
a-
number 1 submission.
That is a public relations issue for us at the staff level. We do require, strongly recommend, and hopefully require, we have to have a pre-application meeting for you, for us to discuss your project, hit the big zoning issues, let you know what the process is going to be, look at the very conceptual layout. Does this work? You've got parking in the wrong area. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to go to DEB, and by the way, this is not going to be exempt from preliminary DAB review. So twice, build that into your time. We would catch that at what we call a pre-application meeting. But we're also going to have to handful of design professionals know that the dam is trying to. They've had a couple of years, and some of them.
a dumb question. 'Cause I've never, on like the A&E side, had to come to the town. For the application and everything, is that information on the website? Like, so when they go to do their application, does it say you're gonna have to go in front of the DAB, or do they not find that out until they have submitted the application?
It says it.
Okay.
Site plan application. Remember what the instructions say. Meet the instructions. Say certain districts or maybe part of DAB review. There's 2 DAB applications. There's
Okay.
the formal application. Preliminary DAB review application. And there's instructions there. So the information is on the website. We first started getting calls about 7 years ago. We've had, those are engineers. they were unfamiliar with our planning board process. Yeah.
I would argue that it's up to the A and E to do their due diligence and submit when that works for their schedule.
We do get
I mean,
calls occasionally from someone, and just because I'm on both sides of the counter, they were working on their cost proposal for their potential client, and they were working on their schedule
I think that's how
and
many meetings should we budget for?
their estimate. But usually they've already been hired, and some.
Or they've made an assumption, and then they say, well, oh, we actually needed 3 meetings instead of 2. That's additional.
Now, planning board side, the last couple of years, the DAB side, it still is a handful of local architects, engineers, and attorneys that know the process. It won't take long for us to say, hey, new step, you need a month. It's going to be a month. Advance of your submittal for planning board to go to the day. Might have to be sometime. People are going to be asking for. Oh, we only got 90 days to exercise. Yeah, I think the information's and
The only thing I would say to you is, not sure I agree with that. There seems to be a desire to try to so adding additional steps, additional requirements, I think we look carefully. I think if we're going to do something like that, submit what you're saying tonight, i.e. mandatory, maybe not the best way to go. But having some criteria.
looking at like what we've reviewed, and with this new criteria that we're developing, like the adjacency and the size and all of that. 'Cause I think we are saying it's mandatory unless it's all in.
Correct.
So I think that's like where reviewing what we have seen so far, if it doesn't, if let's say 75% of these would have been met the exception, then there's no point going forward. You know what I mean? Like I think that's where that information would be
We should
helpful.
we should always say the reason why we're talking about doing that is in fact better design in the long run. Get our conversation.
Like what you said, Pete, early on. I'm going to call it Pete's preamble. When he said,
Write that down.
yeah, the purpose of being here is to advocate for betterment of the public experience, not necessarily the design profession. I think that's well. If you're looking for some sort of reason why this criteria is being developed.
And I think the word required is a little softer than mandatory. Doesn't mean anything different. It's
Right.
a little softer. And what we are trying to do is streamline it so that we're not bringing all the projects in here that we don't have to. So we're creating exclusions for ones we don't, where it's not really necessary. So trying to streamline things, we are trying to streamline, trying to make exceptions for people that don't have to come here and leave enough time for the people during the design process who are attention towards the final. And they have to go back and redo all this work in a shorter amount of time. So yes, we are. That's the political.
Can you, I want to get a clarification on the, if it becomes mandatory, the write-up says it may, excuse me, require town board change to the
Well,
code.
what I can tell you is that you might expect, you guys can affect your procedures. Right? That's when
Doc.
you'll start.
Okay.
Go forward.
Again, I'm just trying to clarify.
Streamline things, but this is the opportunity.
So we're talking about probably possibly an opportunity to find a middle of the road solution. Get both sides.
So I think, you know, just sitting and thinking about this, thresholds sometimes probably be on the defensible side of this. These are the only people that would have to do this. I think what Chris is suggesting is, oh, by the way, here's a half a dozen examples over the last 3 years. These would have had to have gone, these wouldn't have. Then I think, you know, I'm not telling you something I will tell you that you listen carefully to the supervisor. Hear the word abundance. Right? Not familiar with that. Essentially, my take on it, and I've read essentially, what can government do? Not stand in the way of achieving more. Going out, achieve that abundance, be effective. The example takes 3 years to get project. You don't have that here. That's kind of the block. I think whatever we do, keep that in mind. To the extent that I think you can hold up examples. This one,
So you're showing consistency
I'll be the one.
to the best.
I'll be the one. Phone call in the morning.
So we want to find the good examples that were preliminary work out the last couple of years. And we want to find the bigger projects, appropriate projects that would have benefited.
I would
from
say,
preliminary
I would
work.
say use these criteria that you specified. Try to figure out how these things shake out. Right? You have to tweak the criteria, you can, at least we have some empirical idea as to what the implications is. Okay.
I like the idea of it being listed as required, except by exception.
Yep.
Rather than flipping it around the other way. That's not.
Right, but I do, I think government as well, I can relate to there's a lot of roadblocks and there's a lot of barriers to get anything done. We shouldn't be a barrier. So I think part of this is the sale of, you know, we can actually help the process if we can be involved a little bit sooner, so it's not a barrier down the road.
But I guess that's the way it was stated, instead of saying that we're trying not to create barriers so we can create abundance, flip it around and say we're trying to create abundance without creating barriers.
Right, I do
Keep the
still agree,
hierarchy.
it's, yeah,
No,
like,
I
this
don't
is
disagree with any
required
of it, just-
unless you can meet these items, but I hear what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying, we have to word it in a way that's not, it doesn't create another barrier to progress.
So what we're trying to do is to put you in a position where you're gonna go in front of the planning board, who has a decision to make, with the proviso that we've gone through the design advisory board and made changes as suggested there, and therefore they're coming to you with the recommendation.
It's hard to give a blessing on a design, it's hard to give a blessing on a design when we've only made recommendations, they haven't changed yet, and then it goes back to planning without us having.
No, there's interested preliminary. They don't want to go too far with their design and have to change this or get a positive recommendation from you. And then interest that I don't think will without it being required.
You were gonna say something
Well,
nice about me.
well,
He
just,
cut you off.
just, John said, oh, we have been about how we get the word to the plan. And last project, San Marino's apartment that you saw, December, we worded the findings. If you remember. Here's our recommendations. We built in another review with this. They sent us revised plans. And 6 or 8 comments, 8 comments. Ann and I, mostly Ann, reviewed the revised plans and said, here, they hit 5 of these, they've already changed the plan. So then I can write my report to the planning board and say, 5 of Dan's recommendations have already been met. 2 of them have been half met and only need change. So you did affect change, and that is one that came in for preliminary. And that's a good example. But also the idea of John was saying, of taking your recommendations to the planning board, should they hear it? I think now the way we've changed the report to the planning board, they're getting more documentation. And as a say, review the plan every second, revise plans.
They revised it so quickly.
So that becomes a sales tool to resistance for somebody that said, we're adding a number, but it's no, we're actually setting you up for a smoother sale.
Yes, they're not rushing
Down
to
the
try to
road.
make revisions between our review, comments back to them when they get in front of you.
This one was. Specifically added to the report.
Like they got a copy of our comments prior to actually being in front of them.
The planning board also got your finding that. Anyway, I just want to point that out as it's working. It's working. Can we come back and revisit the preliminary think about this.
Well, I view it as a process, not an event. So. Say tomorrow, no, it should be 4,200.
Right.
We'll come up with the better data that Chris mentioned to support.
Better data. I have a-
You all have a design guidelines themselves are next item. How far
Well, let's ask the question first.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who's familiar with the design guidelines that has issues with any?
So
You know, whichever one.
So, yeah, you all got the design guidelines. That's the right way to do it is, let's look at the groups. Does anybody have issues with any of the groups? Maybe then we could drift down to the specific.
can I just do a general comment on
Sure.
the guidelines?
Sure.
So, reviewing all of this information another time last night, there's a lot of stuff in the guidelines that's relevant, right, to what we do, but it's not necessarily anything we can comment on. So, like reusing site and construction materials, or, some of the sustainability items within the building. They're all great, they all should be here, but as far as our review, there's not really anything that we are reviewing in those particular categories. We're looking at the aesthetics of the building, we're not, what kind of toilets are you using? So I don't know what exactly that means, but I guess it's sort of, in my mind, is it two separate items, like things we actually review and can comment on versus guidelines that the consultants have to utilize? I'm just gonna throw that out there.
The same, like,
General comment.
all the sustainable stuff, I was like, because it doesn't.
In the application, they're
have, but-
supposed to tell you how they're going to meet that guide, but I know they never do.
Right, but there's not enough detail in there per se to,
Weigh
again,
in.
like, okay, this is the toilet I'm using, and this is the gallons per flood, like, there's a lot more to it than they can put in that form, nor
So
do
the question
we.
for you is, should those, guideline, we got sub-guideline, we're going out 4 steps. Should some of those criteria, guidelines, measures be eliminated? Because you said, good idea, but what do you have to wait?
Well, I think they should still be in the guidelines.
I think they should be too. Let me take the couch for a second here. On that one, no, they're not presenting us that material. But when they fill it out, they know they're not doing that. So it makes them, they feel a little bad there. So when we say, can we have a bench? Thank God they didn't bring it to the same facility. So I think it's to leverage the little things if they kind of blow past the bigger things.
I like it.
I would have expected it.
I'm not sure what that means. I have no perspective on myself.
No, it's strange. The benefit, just to go to sell the preliminary, the benefit to the preliminary is saying, hey, did you look at the form? You realize we're going to be looking at sustainability. Give us a little bit of information on how you use this. When you bring your complete application, please give us enough information.
Right. So maybe, again, I think it's still all relevant and it should be in our guidelines. It should be in, common building practice. But so maybe it's more a question of what exactly do we review in our check versus what they're submitting. Like they're submitting everything, we can review it on the side, but in our meetings, we're focused on the bigger picture, the aesthetics, the site, that, I don't know.
Yeah, but I also think some of the stuff is like redundant a little bit as well. Like, so we're requiring landscaping. Duh, we should. But then we also have like under like A6, like use landscaping to reduce heating and cooling needs. Like it does, like we know that that's the purpose of adding trees. Like some, like, so I think some of this stuff, it could be pure.
Let's just go, let's go to that one. Comments on A6, so one thing I thought maybe we could do is mark up a set of these, which ones are redundant or refined. Are we missing it? I started at the beginning. What I'm, say, for section B, the building design, mostly to the end, I look at stuff in A, which is site design, and then C, which is the interface with the public realm. And I started doing just that, is identify which ones don't.
Just so you all know, I actually do look at all of them A through C, and then I send my comments on A to Gary. And that's like, sometimes there is that overlap, that threshold between the building and its siting, and they all.
So, A6, would you want to delete that one?
I guess, like, we could take a step back, because I think you had a good point, Tracy, where it's like, what are we actually commenting on and trying to point to, and then what is just like good practice that we want to encourage them to do? So like, what is on our checklist, and what is part of like separate from that? I think we need to, I think that's what we want.
You know, the thing was, in 5 or 10
Modifications.
years, there may be more teeth in the sustainable part of it. So having it in here, that review for the next group coming through here, then they can say, got to do this. I don't think
We're
it,
just an advisory.
at the moment, yes, but the things we're advising on.
Right, but go to A6, right? Your example of using landscape to reduce heating and cooling needs. How do we as a board
Measure.
quantify that or measure? Oh, you check the box there. It's completely a question for the design professional to consider.
Right.
And they can tell us yes, no, or we don't know. And what are we going to say?
Even the next one,
say
like
it's that.
biodiversity, like.
They are supposed to tell you how to.
And a lot of times, just because they didn't.
Think about the one thing about privatizing the space. Our first meeting is we say, well, you're privatizing your public space. It's a it's kind of chain link thing. It's not for everyone. It's obvious. But that was years ago. Now we're like, no, you've got to put where we can all add it. And so we are pushing a little harder on something. So the sustainability, I think we will. We'll push harder on
Right,
those things.
right.
But at the same time, they are psychologically seeing that these are things that are important to them. And they may at least consider it.
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying. It still needs to be in here. But is it something that we can effectively review and provide comment back?
Yeah.
Not yet.
We're not doing that yet. I don't think we're getting this big.
I don't think anything's stopping you guys.
Yes, you're right. It's us.
Like,
stopping
and
us.
I'm not trying to, put there, but like on the apartment complex that we just reviewed, the south facing side, there was a very shallow sidewalk and a parking lot. If you really wanted to, we could have said to them, can you make a landscape buffer out there and put a few more trees there? It's gonna help your southern exposure, and might be nice in the summer to have some trees out there, So maybe you guys can, if you want, to start to think about, can we start to add a little bit, a request, a little bit of push on it? Again, I don't know like where that all falls into their.
We often hear, you don't have to do that because it's not in the zone. Zoning is a bit, certain walls have to have foundation. Don't. Wall between a building and parking trying to say is, there's always the argument, I don't have to do it because zoning doesn't make me do it. But zonings are minimums.
And the other, you commented on, public spaces within the property. That was another comment I had. I guess it always, like with the last apartment building, that's private property, right? And we're trying to tell them to allow the public in the private property. I think there's maybe liability lines that we can't or shouldn't cross in requiring them to provide public access to their private property. So
We kind of do. There's a public sidewalk. It's their obligation to shovel. It's their.
right, at the street,
Yes.
but we, like the back patio, I think we were,
Well, they-
yeah.
Living at one of these apartment places, I wouldn't.
Yes, well, if it was
Right.
secluded in the back, they didn't have to put it. We were asking them to consider, put something out.
Right, if it's in
Something.
the public way.
Well,
Right,
that's.
Right, but if you're inviting the public onto your private property, that's,
Do the amenity spaces?
Yes.
public amenity.
And then it says that the public
Don't
spaces should not,
privatize.
don't privatize. Well, they're putting it in a spot that does privatize the private location. They've done that, but we haven't been pushing real hard on that. I think we're kind of not quite sure where we stand. But I only bring that up because 5 years, the board may feel different. May feel, no, we do have a little more leverage here. This is the type of community we're creating. I'm just arguing, don't take it out yet, even though we're not putting our
I
foot
think
down
we
on it.
just have to better define where it's an obligation, or again, if it's their private property and the public shouldn't be allowed in a particular area. I think we just have to be mindful of that or aware of what those.
I think Gary made a good point earlier, like these were developed for
Right,
like this is
right.
not developed for like this construction to building and tenant, whatever. Like, it wasn't designed for that. And some of these things, I don't disagree with you that I think we can push back on some of it. I think all the values we have here, but like right now, because I even made a comment in here, like some of this stuff, like the sustainable features and things like that, like, is there a threshold that those are something that like is, that it does trigger, it is like a requirement then?
I was just thinking. Design guidelines don't. When should there be publicly accessible? What size? Is it a mix of retail and office? You got a little pocket park in the middle? That have a sidewalk to public sidewalk, as opposed to apartments, senior residences. It should be. There's nothing in here about thresholds, size projects.
And I think that's why like sometimes like the applicants may even get a little lazy with like there's an ambiguity in what they actually do need to provide. Like the Starbucks, I was in the middle of a parking lot. You're not gonna have bio retention and like some of it, like they didn't have maybe an opportunity to put landscaping in with biodiversity. Like there, I think there should be thresholds that trigger, okay, now you need to consider all of the parts of the
Say,
guidelines.
we'll include it, and then if it's not relevant, we'll exclude it. But I should keep it in there, but if it's not. So let's not give up our say on it.
Right. Yeah, I think in those cases, yeah, it's a simple, right, in that particular item.
We
But like
they're not-
going-
They're not putting not applicable because they didn't do it. Well, no, that's not good enough.
Right, right.
But
I don't
you could
want
say
to
it's
do it.
standard.
Yeah.
At our discretion. No.
No, I was just in back of my mind, not a complete thought yet, but the sustainability, going back to that particular topic. there are code minimums, right? Building code minimums for sustainable elements. I think, I know we want to keep something in or some guidance, but there's also, like, we're not a stretch energy code community, right? We haven't adopted a stretch energy code to require anything more than code minimum. So do our, I think we have to be careful of how our guidelines may push us beyond the code as a requirement.
Everything we're doing here is.
Not necessarily.
The same,
I mean,
you
there's
gotta
nothing in
base
the
the middle
building
side,
code
you can't
for,
use EPIS on the ground floor, these are.
right, but those aren't building code
An advisory. board.
items.
Yes.
But sustainability features can cross over the line of code items.
So you think it just be kept in there just for the conversation?
No, I think it should be kept in for guidance. But again, we're not reviewing building plans, right? That might be more of a, when the permit comes in, right? The building department can review those items to verify, okay, you're meeting code, or are we asking for something?
Checklist, maybe it's rewording them, how does it exceed? You know, if they know,
Have we ever gotten anything that we've, under the sustainable category, changed? Like, those projects?
I have not seen anything come across my desk that has been anything other than we're using LED lights and low flow fixtures, which are already code required.
Right.
Right, I've never seen anyone suggest, like, offer anything above or beyond. So I maybe asking, how does this do that?
Well, okay, regardless of what would be the right thing in terms of what is it that we'd want? Let's start with what we want and figure out how we can get it. What kind of sustainable features would we want? Or do we not care?
Definitely need code minimum, right? But I guess to me,
I mean, what are we
Right,
hoping
right.
for? What are we hoping that this would become?
again, I think what's in here is good guidance. I'm just not sure it's our place to comment or pursue or to know, all right, you're gonna reuse site and construction materials. It's sort of a, yeah, do that, but we're not, there's nothing we can comment about that. There's nothing we can dictate or mandate.
I can't dictate, but guidance, I think, is the elegant word there.
Right.
That it should be there so that there's awareness with an understanding on both sides, that ultimately there's not a big stick.
I think, to your point, like the entirety of section B6. Required by
Which section?
B6.
B6.
Not necessarily by, well, like high performance windows, like there's certain there's certain things that like as a well-functioning architect, like you have to do. You know?
Is it possible that just, that, so we have the checklist that we then use to measure this, did they do it? Maybe the questions on the checklist just need to be worded to ask, does the project meet the sustainability standard, or does it exceed it? Or how does the project exceed code requirements? How? Right, and so right now, on the sustainability side, the checklist, when I review it, it says, how does the project meet the sustainability guidelines? And they offer things that are already code required because they know that they've met that minimum threshold. What if the question says, how do you exceed code required minimums for sustainability? How do you exceed code required minimums for, daylighting or whatever? So you're asking them how they are bettering.
Right. I like that because it keeps it on the checklist, so it's front and center when the designers are going through. But again, it's not, like when we're doing our review in these meetings, we're not we're not diving into those individual categories. It's like, all right, you're addressing it, we move on to the next item, right? Because to me, I'm just focusing on, there's a lot of these topics, again, they're all relevant, they should be here, but it's not anything we can contribute to. We can just acknowledge what they put on their form.
And we are making them cognizant of it too. But I think it's a good idea to say, how are you exceeding? Because then the expectation doesn't become bare minimum.
Don't forget about it,
Yeah,
right?
well,
It's there.
yeah, but this is Amherst. How is that better than this?
That's your
They may
psychology
have,
there.
right.
Yes.
How can I do
We
it
did it.
better?
Yes.
We did it. We're not
And if it
exceeding.
was- Is that what it is?
I'll just point out that in the instructions or the checklist, somewhere it says exactly how we're supposed to tell us.
I almost wonder if it's not a question of the, like, the book of guidelines that needs revising, but if it's the checklist that needs.
But I think you can simplify it, like Ann was saying. It's not like, maybe don't give them a box, right, to write something out. You're just, check, I did it, and this is how I'm exceeding. I think you can simplify the chart, maybe.
It's a good point that it might be the checklist stuff that kind of how we're holding them accountable to this.
If it's a problem, not the guidelines. but check.
But I think about in the city of Buffalo, they had a problem with combined sewers. So what did you do to suppress that storm surge of water into the system? They're interested in, what are the problems here in Amherst that, I don't think we have a problem with sewer here that we're thinking of the city of Buffalo. What are the problems here in Amherst that can be resolved by this?
I think you're philosophically going back to Imagine Amherst work that said trying to focus, let's say this wrong, trying to focus areas ripe for redevelopment, commercial areas. Those areas are susceptible to development pressure. We want to guide it into this form.
Right. I mean, there's
That's
some
where the
problems-
mixed use design guideline, that's where the mixed use zoning came from, and then the design guidelines. So I think the problem with our form, style, development, and lack of mixed use. I think that was the general problem. What are the individual problems that trigger each of these guidelines or topics, guidelines? Don't remember hearing that conversation.
I was just saying, I mean, everything's, these are all sustainable, good ideas, but sometimes there's ones like, this is really. But, what's that?
I was sidelining saying, you know, there's been such, because of all the development, you know, just, I know this is outside of the sites of the parcels you guys are looking at, but as far as like what are some big picture issues that Amherst deals with, you know, traffic and making right, making the pedestrian experience safer or helping the buildings feel, you know, more, human friendly. So I think if you're looking at that kind of humanitarian, like what is the big picture question that this board is looking to do? You know, I don't know, but it seems to me like design is for people. Design, and you know, there might be traffic engineers who say, no, design is for transportation and for cars, but like design ultimately is meant to serve humans and what we do. So I think we want to take that back to the question, what does it mean for this design, for that board to consider the people who are, you know, live, work, and play in Amherst, what does it feel like to be here?
Yeah, and I think this conversation is good because I think it's, in my mind, like our board has been very focused on the aesthetics, right? And the circulation of a particular space. But I know I'm pushing back on sustainability. Like, yeah, we need it, but how can we measure it? It's still an aspect of design that we want to incorporate in buildings in Amherst, but So maybe our focus as a board, again, we're very visually focused, I think, by nature. But is there more to it, right? Do we push it further to fuller design in the sense of sustainability? And I think we need to get to code, right? Because that's a different animal itself, but there's more to design than just aesthetics. But that's really what our focus is about, is the aesthetics.
It has been that way, and I remember sitting in like the forever. Like the aesthetics was the entire intent of this board when it first started. So.
You know, which way, like, what do we think? Should it be aesthetics or should it be broader? than
I think it should be
aesthetics?
part of that. I think that the idea of the walkability and pedestrian experience the people that didn't necessarily work there, patronize that place, but it's all the rest of us. And if you don't, I'd like to actually jump a little bit further than that. Say, is there any way, I don't know if this is there any way that we could make a suggestion that was outside of the scope of any project that came in? There's some spots that need a sidewalk, there's some spots that need a crosswalk.
So if there's not an application in front of you, but you're aware of other areas of town.
I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
I don't know. As a board, I don't think it's in your charge, so I don't know
Well, it's not.
the limits of what the board can.
Well, if we're talking about changing it, let me give a concrete example. I live over in Dana Heights, which is between Maple, Jerd, Transit Road. And the kids all, and throughout that, there's probably 1,000 houses or so. They all go to Williams Least. In order to get to Williams Least, you gotta cross Maple Road. And there's a street that Paradise Road connects to Maple. It changes name, but it's the same road. The problem is, to cross the street there, you gotta cross 5 lanes of traffic. To get to a stoplight, you gotta go half mile in one direction. There should be a crosswalk, but at a minimum, crosswalk. Perhaps what they put out here is what they need, because there's so many kids involved. There's no business, but, I mean, we're talking about there's apartment buildings going up down the street. Do we have, I know we don't have.
I think the traffic.
Traffic safety.
Is there any,
Safety
as far
board.
as we're looking at the pedestrian experience, is there any way that we as a board could say, you know what, we've sat around and said, this is a problem here. We make a recommendation outside of somebody coming in here.
I don't know what the mechanism is. Obviously, any individual can.
Right.
That example that you're raising, Dan said, typical comment that the traffic safety board hears.
Right.
Can or should, or is it in your charge to make recommendations like that? To the traffic safety board? It's not a question.
I think we should ask the attorney that question, but
Is that something that as a
It
board we'd be
seems-
interested in?
reasonable to me to send the traffic safety board, who does have control over this type of thing, can do something about it. To say on behalf of the design advisory board, as we've been looking at development in this area, we feel that it should come to your attention that this is an issue that we would like to see addressed. Some, whatever flowery terms we want to use.
Can we put some, what would be everybody's thoughts on putting something at the end of our meeting after we handle all the other business? Is there something, Amherst, you've noticed that needs to be addressed, that we could put together a recommendation to the traffic board or something? Is that something we want us to?
If I might, I think you can do that. I think the challenge we're gonna have, Gary, is timing, right? So traffic safety meets first week of the month on a Wednesday. We would want to make sure that those insights that you provide are given to the traffic safety board for their consideration as well. I think just because the planning board will typically defer to traffic safety on traffic related issues.
Okay.
So I think if you see an opportunity for some kind of improvement, I'm just trying to think this through in terms of timing, Garrett. I mean, this would,
Well,
We're-
we're on the fourth Thursday. If they're, I mean,
yes.
it's usually not related to a cycle of our work, but it's just something that we'd like to bring to the attention of.
And
Get the blessing of the town attorney.
Yeah.
I think at the end of every meeting, we can say, does anybody have any new business that they want to bring up?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's legal to do that.
I think, Dan, the question is, what about issues that are not in front of you? Can they make recommendations or questions? It's not an agenda item.
I think there can be comments, maybe questions, whether you want to make them recommendations. I think that's a board decision. I would submit that you probably need to stay in your lane, so to speak. But I think to your point, Peter, if there's something that you notice, I think it's probably perfectly fine to make that suggestion.
Okay. So I like the idea of being able to not just as one person going over and saying, this is design professionals and looked as if this is a problem, we got unanimous consent, we'd like you to at least consider this.
I mean,
Professionals, volunteers,
Yes,
community-minded,
yes.
Yep.
community involved, all, we're hitting all the, in terms of.
And it's good, and then I think it kind of becomes good clout and PR for who we are and what we're recommending. We are community oriented, we're trying to do this, and these are things that are outside of necessarily what we have authority over, but we'll make a recommendation.
I think I totally believe what you're saying. I'm just thinking, if you're asking us to vote on if we're all in support of this, I would want to see more information.
Right.
Right? Like
So if we
site
got
plan
something-
or picture, like
Bring the item ready to.
bring an
present.
item ready to,
You can't say,
yeah,
"I don't
not
want you
just
guys
a,
to tie
your word
at a
of,
bus stop at meeting gets
right.
write a letter. All right, and we beat that horse.
So you want us to look at the checklist to see if revisions could be made, and or did you guys want to look more at the design guidelines to see if things could be consolidated as well? Is it a both
It
and or?
may be
I think it's
appropriate
a-
for everybody to review, better if you're willing to, and offer suggestions on both sides.
Thank you. What goes to the next? You guys can look at the checklist, look at the design guidelines and the checklist. Got to look at it together. And make notes.
And I think everybody's done that.
You know,
Great
duplicate
responsibility.
I need the
or-
checklist. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Copy of the checklist.
If you want
You can download it online.
blank checklist, we'll email that to you. And then if you give them back to us, somehow reconcile those comments, or at least scan them and share them with everybody else. And then the next time we do this, we can look at specific.
Again, yeah, these aren't one and done.
No one likes my idea of hammering down every.
All right.
But it's also. Sorry, I derailed that.
Then
with
we'll have
my
an idea of
picture.
which ones are the problem areas.
Yeah.
If 4 people say, building materials is an area that needs to be updated, then, or 3 of you say that these checklists, the way the checklist is organized in a certain manner, then we know that's someplace.
We might get better results if the question was asked.
I think you'll get better results. My thinking, when I brought up, let's update the design guidelines, was you make it better applications if the checklist was 14 pages long. In tiny little boxes.
I mean, speaking big picture too, like, I don't want, like, lately it's felt like we are just checking the boxes, at least for me. And like, I just don't want to feel like the applicant is just, okay, did it. And then we're also at the end of the meeting saying, like, okay, we're good. Like, that doesn't feel good to me either personally. So I think if it is more condensed and more like, intentional, it'll feel better.
So you think we
I've been
get
on
some
the road.
effectiveness benefit
I
change in how we do it in the meeting?
maybe, I don't know. And that's just, I'm one person on this board. It has felt a little sort of like routine of like, okay, section A1, we're good, check. Section A2, we're good, check. Like, it just feels It does feel a little clunky, and I think um, part of it is certain sections repeat. Like we talk about site in A, and then we jump back and talk about trees in B. So I guess I don't know if there's a different way to organize. Maybe it requires more than just checklist change, but let's talk about the site first and have a global conversation about the site that kind of incorporates all of the items, not necessarily just going box by box, but have, let's talk about the site. And then
Term
let's
you
talk
were
about the
looking for.
building.
Self-satisfaction. With our effort, time, our expertise, deriving positive feedback. This is important for us. Know if we're doing the right thing.
I think they need to put more into the presentation from the standpoint of the invention regulations. Some of the changes we've made have been A, B, and C. And so they're telling us up front how they solve the problems that have been presented.
Eliciting a more dynamic.
I just want to share some of, and again, I know I'm staff, this is your board. One of the things that I have found, maybe this does go back to the guidelines, but the building design, where we talk about that base, middle, and cap, you see a good definition on base and middle. Very hard to get a good read on what constitutes a good cap on a building. This language here is very weak, I believe, from my opinion.
How would you word that?
To me, I think that when the plane of the building goes straight up and the cap is a cornice on top that's maybe a foot or 6 inches deep, it's not really a cap, it's just like a Schluter strip on tile. Like,
Shoebox in a field.
yeah, I don't know, like, but when you do see, some of the examples that, there's pictures here, you see maybe a mansard roof that tilts back, it breaks the plane. It's not just a cornice, there's some change of geometry and building massing that defines, like, this is like an attic or a top floor that feels different than the midsection of the building. And I don't know, maybe not every building has to do that, but maybe there's some portion of the building that could do that. Again, I'm not trying to tell people how their application should look, but the definition of what constitutes a cap in these guidelines doesn't give you guys a lot of leverage to request a change if you think that the building is not responding to its context, or that it's, very, again, kind of very boxy and not working from a pedestrian appreciation standpoint. That's just one portion that I have found to be a little bit problematic from my perspective.
I appreciated the email that you sent in that we all then got a copy of. Because I think the base middle cap is also pretty limiting for like the design that we could be receiving. It makes sense, like when we first were looking at these, the base middle cap made sense for like a village setting or like Snyder and some parts of like Edgarville and that sort of thing. It made sense for where that has already been very defined for the neighborhood. But I don't necessarily, personal opinion, want to see a base middle cornice for a boulevard mall type development. And that's like, I want to see something new and exciting that doesn't feel like the Amherst that we've had.
If it's applicable, reworded, but it shouldn't be mandated.
I don't think so personally. Like, I think we have like good language in there that says that it really should fit with like the context of the neighborhood. And I think like a base middle cap, like that language, I think fits well with something like the village here. But I don't know
It's a
that
smaller scale of
it's a smaller
development.
scale. It's an older sort of style neighborhood, but for like the scale of something like the Boulevard Mall, like I don't think that language aligns with what I think we would expect or want to see there.
Guidance on a special project like that. People don't understand this is a unique project.
It's sometimes you look at it and go, yeah, that works, or sometimes you want to have a box. It's hard to quantify intangibles.
Like you said, I think it's good to have it there as talking points, right?
Right.
So you can talk about the base, middle, and cap, but I totally agree with you that the whole town doesn't need to look, that defined horizontally, right? Like, we should have some creativity in, like, the Boulevard Mall site or other bigger developments to, yeah, pay attention to base, middle, cap, but we're not saying, like, those are horizontal defined elements, and I think that's what is interpreted by what we're saying. So, but I think it's important, the context, right? Like, your design needs to fit within the context of the that's
B1,
Because I think too, like,
B1 we're talking.
I think the images that we have in the guidelines are also steering and sort of reinforcing, like, you see the words base, middle, cap in bold letters. And then right down below, it's two developments of mixed use that look nearly identical. They have the Ethos Cornice, they have the brick, they have, like, I wonder if even some of the imagery that we're putting in here as like reference, if that gets changed. I don't want to like overhaul the entire book, but like, I think this gives some suggestion of what we're looking for and or maybe not looking for in some.
This also brings up the point, I think that came up, in December at the meeting with the apartment building, that, it does say in this guideline that the building should complement the character and surrounding buildings, but as a board, it's hard for us to see that, right? Because we're only looking at the building, we're not looking at the context. So I think we, maybe an addition to, or is there a way to make part of the requirements of the submission something that gives us more context?
I don't know, you're right, you need to see more context. But also, and I don't know which guideline it is.
B1.
It's still in B1?
Yeah, at the
Oh,
very,
okay, style characters surrounding buildings.
yeah.
The problem with that is that you're in the mixed use districts, larger districts where we anticipate marginal uses going away. And if this case that you're talking about, there's a single family house on one side, there's a single family house that's been essentially converted to a business on the other side, should the new development play down to the surroundings, or should the new development set framework for the growth, the redevelopment of the surroundings? That's what this doesn't say. This says just that it should be appropriate to the character of the surroundings. But we want to be the catalyst to change the surroundings in some of these locations.
Right, in some cases, the building down here on Main Street that we keep referring back to, right, with the two-story facade, like, I have no idea what the other buildings around that building look like. Like, does it fit into the context? I don't know. It's not an area that I'm familiar with.
Google Maps?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing at home, but I'm like,
Google Maps, just have some images of, submit 5 images.
I mean, we obviously know what's coming next. It can be,
We used to ask them to have, we talked about it ages ago, I thought, where we were asking them to share pictures of the surrounding.
Some of them do that, some of them don't. And then by the time they say, oh, I didn't bring it.
Right.
You have to have your backup plan and be like, oh, we're gonna go Blue Street View now. What your neighbors is like.
So it's not required in their, like in their submitted
That's true,
materials.
I think,
no, the planning board doesn't require that. Take a drive around and get my agenda on Friday. And by next Thursday, I'll have driven anything that's significant. Looked at.
I've usually commented on those on the checklist where it says should complement whatever, I've usually commented to you guys saying, not enough information was provided by the applicant for us to evaluate whether or not they meet the intent of the guideline criteria. I'm then going on to Google Street View and being like, well, but again, I feel like my comments to you guys are based on what did they submit? What does the guideline say? Does it appear they met or did not meet, or was not enough information provided?
And when, um, one thing that's changed in how we set this up for you, get applications, share it with Ann, landscape architect, myself, parts of the application, and provide comments to the applicant. Hopefully, in time, for them to give us a revised submittal, or give them a heads up, this is what's at issue. These are the comments that Dan's gonna hear from staff. So that's something that wasn't done the first few years, but now trying to do review letters early to give them the opportunity to provide more information and make some changes. Don't like it when they resubmit because their submittal is the same submittal that now in process. Right? So submittal, staff review is better done. They resubmit and we have to train all of this.
So we're looking for additional feedback. I believe everybody will be able to come up with some cogent suggestions. Go. Where those will go, I guess to you, two of you, to kind of filter, looking for commonalities, looking for trends, looking for improvements. We've heard some great improvements. And take it from there. Again, I'll harken back to my lazy statement earlier that the project is not event. Last and final decision. To see if there's interest, which I'm glad you, it's been great. Apparently there is. There's constructive interest. Let's make it better. I was going to say, I know that when Dale joined the planning board, I was chairman at the time. His complaint, not quite the right word, but at almost every meeting, he would raise the specter of, why aren't we looking at, this guy wants to build a purple U-storage building. We stopped it, didn't we, Dan?
Purple what?
U-storage building, big, it looked like a
Oh,
whale.
storage building?
Oh, yeah, yeah, purple. And those are the kind of things that drove him crazy, and he said, he went and did the right thing in terms of building the case for this board existing. So I think that's why a lot of look over the shoulder, we see a lot of this stuff is so rooted in the way the building looks, and that maybe not enough some of the other important areas. So again, and just moving some air around here, but I think it's important to recognize that the roots of this, to my understanding, were let's not let them build a purple storage.
Between Dell being crazy about it and then our old town supervisor. That is how this came
Building
to be.
focused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
building design focused, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut anybody off.
We'll
Yeah, cranky.
We'll start the next process. Start the next
Doing,
process by email you all both applications, preliminary application, formal checklist application. Ask you to continue to look at the guidelines, look at them in context of, is the topic or guideline or criteria a problem, or is it how we're asking for answers in the checklist?
okay, in the interest of moving ahead, do we need to take your statement? In terms of, somebody wants to make a motion that proceed thusly, because I do have a,
I don't think we need a motion, taking the discussion, take the next steps.
I was
Yeah.
rushed for time and I just used the typical voting for a like section header.
guilty with an excuse. There you go. Bring that up. All right, so then, at this point, are we ready to?
Do about the rules of order. There's just a heading in there, Dan. So you all have the rules of order.
Nothing about remuneration for us.
So we'll look at the typos in the formatting, but see what.
Not what you said, but what you meant to say. God,
So,
You want comments now or more comments
Yeah.
later? Are we doing this now?
It's up to the chair.
Or are we saying, John, you can head the mission?
well, if anybody really, look at, we're here, let's, if anybody's got anything that has occurred to them as they've read through them. I personally don't have any issues if these are the guidelines that we've been operating under. Not aware of any. No problems have come to my attention. So, why don't we'll get to you, Peter. Ooh, yeah, I see you. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Put it in the form of a motion and kick that one around. So,
Do we
please.
have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
I don't have a lot of comments about the procedure and such, membership, 5 years, whatever. But the one thing, in the purpose and intent, words pedestrian, walkable, public space, public art. This really seemed anemic compared to what we've been actually doing the past few years. And those are the things those are my comments. Is that purpose and intent. That should be expanded.
that's all?
That's it.
Um,
No, you were expecting a lot more from me. I apologize for coming in. That's all.
No, this was enough.
Nobody else- That's fine.
So I also hear you volunteering to write some more blurbs, but okay.
We have some
That was
suggestions.
great.
Right.
She has some suggestions for board meeting.
What does it say about the chairman can assign?
It was part of what our purpose is, create a better pedestrian experience, walkable spaces that are interconnected with each other.
This is basically Pete's preamble.
Pete's preamble,
If
yes,
you-
we
if you
need,
could- If you could.
we need greater alliteration. I'm sorry, could you speak up?
Remember, there's a local law that created that. This may have more of the information.
For ongoing operations.
I would suggest pull the local law.
Yes, certainly can, and add that to our punch list.
So I read that, I'm like,
Watch that.
we're doing something a little different.
I think that's a good comment.
Punch it up.
Spice it up. So a couple of comments that I had. Oh, are we going this way? Am I
Yes.
okay to jump in?
No, we're
Counterclockwise.
random.
Counterclockwise, right back.
So under membership, we do have, the members are limited to 2 consecutive terms. I guess my question is that something, do we want to maintain that?
That's a town
It's a town thing?
requirement.
But the other part of that is, I think 3 of you all started at the same time. So that means 3 will all leave at the same
That's
time.
problematic.
Now,
And
wait a
we
second,
are-
it says full terms. So the term, my
Yeah.
term wasn't a full first term.
Oh.
It was less than the full 5
Say,
years.
there's a way around it.
So-
Okay, so you
So I
get-
can, until we went all, so
Oh,
this is
okay,
my
in
first
my
5-year
first
term.
term. Oh, so my first term wasn't a full term either. So I'm in my first full term right now.
That's a question for the attorney.
No,
Actually, it's a question for Amy.
no,
Amy is
no,
an
all the first people were staggered.
They
You
were.
the first edition, so you're serving your first full term right now. So, like Duncan, I think, Duncan is,
Come
we're both getting
December,
that. I think Duncan is the
fair.
first to go out of, like, he was, no,
Out of it, after a term.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
termed out, but his term.
Actually,
Down.
I think you were the first one, Pete, who was reinstated.
Yes.
You're each one of
Yes,
them
yeah.
reinstated as a
Sarah
Duncan,
did-
I think, was the most recent.
Yeah, Sarah was, she was here for 1 year. She was out. and you
Yeah,
came
then I
in.
took her spot. I guess it would be helpful to know when everyone's term ends so that we don't have.
We're all
I can
staggered.
say
Our,
Yeah.
our initial terms.
That's
were
in our
set to be
planning
1
board
year, 2 year, 3
roster.
years.
Okay.
So that it would all roll out
Okay.
separately.
It should be.
Okay.
Each year one.
I believe it's on the website, but I can send
think-
it out.
Taking this up with the town attorney is appropriate. My first term was a 7-year term because it's 7 years. And I ran through it and I was going to be reinstated as the chairperson, but then somebody left and they had only been there for 1 year. So Barry, or the then supervisor, decided to put me in the chairman with the 6-year term. At the end of that term, I was told that I had termed out. So I went away for 5 years. I lived in Boston. It was horrible. Tom Brady was playing. I still get shivers down. But anyhow, I digress. I think the town attorney might have to look at that to find, to give you. 'Cause I don't know if then a 3 and 5 would consider something as a 2-year.
Yeah, that's one that I don't know. I know that, I think Gary might be pulling it up, but right now, we do have everyone's most recent, what their next expiration date would be. And if they were sent to the town board, obviously, no one attended, we did that automatically. But if their name was sent to the town board, we get reinstated. So we can look up all that, but I need to double check with the attorney about the logistics of someone like Pete, who might have had a 3-year first term because
Right.
you were staggered as one of the starters.
Right.
Do you get 2 more full ones, or do you get 1 full one and you kind of get gypped? I need to double check. with the attorney.
When it says full term, what's considered a full term? 2
Rules-
consecutive
Rules
full
of order were first drafted based on local law. Some of that information's in the local law. So we'll send that to you as well. But
Okay.
there isn't question on how it's set up. Rachel said she'll find it, she knows everybody's law. December, right?
No, mine just.
Tracy got,
re-upped,
oh, it's in December,
but-
are you interested? in
Right,
staying on?
but this, like, January 1, I think is my first full term, so I.
Everyone,
Yes,
one
I
of
can
you
write it
will
down.
hear it.
Every
every
place
year.
someone, yeah, okay.
One person's up every year. Start.
So
I'm up
Jonathan's
I'm
is
up at the end of
29.
This year,
This year.
and I believe it's the second full term
Well,
for me.
you finished a part of a term and then you complete it.
Yeah, so, O'Rourke is 29, Black is 26, so your name is up at the end of this year. Calucci 28, Conheiser-Louis 30, and Pulte 27. So even though the three of them all started at the same time, we got that same.
Yeah, and I guess the question, are they eligible for one more term after that? But,
I have a question.
Right,
You have,
right.
but that's, planning board members have to take 4 hours of, it's a state law, 4 hours of continuing education. Is that applied?
They have not, I don't think so, because I haven't been telling them to do it, so I hope not.
So, the bad news is I just took my 4 years, 4 hours, 26. Found out that if I didn't, I couldn't get reappointed 6 years from now. I think I jumped the gun.
Yeah, we've not done that.
But Dan, continuing education is not required for the DAP. They don't have to get the credits, yeah.
I don't think so. Unless it says so in the local law. Planning board's training requirements.
State law, that's a state law.
Okay, so next item, regular meetings, we just need to change that time to 6 because we do meet at 6 now. And then my last question, I think was our public hearings. I thought we said before we weren't a public hearing. Right, but that's in here. Okay.
Just, I don't care. Put together that document.
Right. Okay, so we can cross out the public here. Okay, that was just my last question.
You don't want.
No, I don't. That's why I was like, wait, what?
Love when 17 people keep us up to 2 a.m.
And that's what we used to do.
I was about to say,
17
you know,
agenda items.
you know,
But Catherine Weiss, who was the first chairperson, and I would get over to Lance, and she said, John, this is people's opportunity to interact with the local and the community. She said, it's important for them to talk. Bob Gilmore came along and said, yeah, they can talk. 3 minutes.
Short and sweet. That's all I have.
I didn't.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. It's the phrase I'm gonna make famous tonight. It's not in there. See? This meeting's gone on way too long. And there's proof. Process. So I think this has been a pleasant experience on my behalf, getting the feedback. Very respectful. Everybody up to this.
Yeah.
Duncan's closing his binder.
Duncan has had his left foot turned. He thinks I didn't notice.
If anyone has any specific edits you want, send them. This is an easier document. We'll share it.
Do we think we're meeting?
We don't have a planning board application pending. Don't think we have to have a February meeting for him.
I think that if we had had a review before this, we'd be too exhausted by this point to have gotten done. We have anybody meeting it. Yeah, so if we don't have anything scheduled for February, that would be a good time to sit down again, unless.
Is that enough time though for them to review anything and everything?
But as long as you don't, so we send you your stuff a week in advance, give it to us in 2 weeks.
Okay, so what's our deadline?
That's 2 weeks enough.
We would meet with the
So in 2 weeks, we're looking for changes
any
to,
changes suggested changes you have to the design guidelines, the applications, or the bylaws.
February 5th is 2 weeks from today, and would be
When's the meeting?
3 weeks ahead of the meeting, so you really, well, it would be 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah, but we send it out the 19th, so you're giving us a week to work on it.
Are you sure that's enough time, Gary?
Well,
Well, how about you guys, is the 5th enough time for you guys?
Because I'm going to be in the middle of taking a bunch of applications.
Or do you want to make it
you can, because depending on how you give me your edits to the applications, we may just sample them, scan them, share them with everybody. Changing the application and the guidelines, I can't really reconcile all this stuff. I can reconcile comments in a Word document.
I think if
Do we
you
want all-
share all of the comments, and then we talk about the
Right,
comments and
right,
ask you
that
to
will
make
allow us
the changes from there.
So the fifth will work.
so the 5th, you want comments back first, then we're going to meet on the 22nd, or are we going to meet on the 5th?
You make the meeting.
Meeting 26th.
Okay.
So anything you have to share with the group, or have me deal with, get this in there.
And we can only accept 5 megabytes at a time. So you
Otherwise,
could
make it a
put 5 single
We're taking
megabyte,
6 months to put
so
5
keep it
megabytes.
short PDFs, or you have to send them in chunks, or we can send you a link.
Did you say 5 megabytes?
5 megabytes.
What did you mean 5 gigabytes?
Bags, we're really, really tiny.
She's right.
You can ask for a link, and we, actually, it might just be better to send them a link, so they can upload everything in one place. I can send them a big place. Yeah,
I'm gonna have
and
Make
then
sure
you
you
just,
get the expiration date really far.
yeah, exactly. Gary, I don't have a pencil anymore, so if you could write that down for me, oh, thank you.
I'll let meetings over.
Thank you.
Is there anything anybody else has to raise? If you can beat me to the door, watch.
I'm good. Hopefully the 26th meeting does not last quite as long. I think the next
Well, I
one-
was gonna say, on behalf of the board, thank you for coming prepared,
Sure.
ready to give us the guidance. Dan, glad to be there. Looking like Gail.
Is there going to be?
What I do. Everybody's good at something.
I'll give it back to you.
Does anyone want to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to go.
I'll second it.
Yeah, not good for that. Big trouble. Already left.
8, 17, 18.
All right, before anyone says anything, I'm gonna turn down the screen.